Okay, so today is another guided meditation day for those who might have been expecting silent meditation. So at these guided meditations, I'm going to be pointing with words, which is different than instructing or giving you something to do. So I'm not going to be adding anything for the mind to do. I'm not going to be giving you any technique or any activity which could be called meditation. So at the beginning, the mind may hear these pointers and it may interpret what's being said as some technique or some doing, but gradually that activity of the mind or mediation of the mind can drop away. So it's fine if the mind is doing something or searching or trying to figure it out at the beginning, but that will naturally fall away as we get into it. So we'll just start by recognizing what we're doing here. What has brought us here today? What is this thing that we call meditation or self-inquiry? So there's something that brought everyone here today. Perhaps a longing or a wanting to know ourselves, to recognize our true nature. And this longing, you could call it a primordial sort of longing to realize the truth or to realize samadhi. So this is something that comes not from the conditioned self, but it's sort of inherent in our nature. This desire or this impetus to realize who or what we are. So this realizing isn't something that the conditioned self does. The conditioned self is what we've become falsely identified with. So awakening, realizing samadhi through meditation or self-inquiry is not something that is done or achieved by the conditioned mind. It's a recognition or waking up to that which we always already are. It's what we are. It's been given many names, such as pure awareness or primordial consciousness, presence, the true self, the unborn. All of these words are pointing beyond language, beyond the duality of the mind. The conditioned mind doesn't know what awareness is, or primordial consciousness, or presence. Conditioned mind only knows how to look for things. So when we put aside that looking, that doing, that activity of seeking or searching, let the mind be a beginner's mind, a not knowing mind. Just notice that original intention that brought you here. That intention to directly experience your true nature. We're just going to stay with that intention to directly experience your true nature without letting the mind get involved, without letting the mind act on it. The mind may say, how do I do that? How do I directly experience my true nature? The mind can't do it. The conditioned mind can't do it. So what happens when you have this intention to directly experience your true nature? So this intention is, we could call it self-inquiry. When we inquire, who am I? Who am I really? What am I really? Then what comes up as a result of that inquiry? When I feel or get a sense of this beingness or I amness, then what moves within the mind and body as a result of that inquiry? There's a sort of clearing process that begins to happen. Clearing, or you could say a purification. a freeing of samskaras. Can call this making the unconscious conscious, whatever's in play. Habit patterns of the mind, thoughts and sensations will begin to come to the surface, become observable. So just observe any thoughts or sensations that arise as a result of that direct intention to know yourself. And just allow whatever phenomena wants to unfold as a result of that inquiry. Just allow it to be witnessed, allow it to arise fully and pass away. So as we intend to directly know or experience our true nature, don't get caught in thoughts, and at the same time, don't try to push away thoughts or sensations or any phenomena that is arising. Don't judge any phenomena as good or bad. Even if thoughts are interrupting, don't want to generate aversion to the thoughts, because that preference is just another thought. It's just another habit pattern of the mind. awareness or presence allows everything to be as it is. There's no preference in awareness. Even saying allowing is not it. Awareness doesn't allow, doesn't do anything. It is simply aware without quality, without any job. So even a word like surrender or letting go, even not something that the mind does. Whatever the mind thinks surrender is, there's still some doing in that. So just notice if the mind, the conditioned mind, is controlling or choosing. Is it mediating in any way? Is it possible to be here directly without the mediation of that mind? Just allow the mind and senses to be wide open. Notice if there's a lucidity or aliveness to this moment. And when we directly intend to be present, to know who we are directly, Be completely conscious of whatever arises as a result of that inquiry. Maybe there's some form of resistance in the mind and body. Maybe a belief will come to the forefront, judging, doubt. Just make it conscious, whatever comes up directly as a result of the inquiry. There's no doing in this inquiry. We simply are noticing that intention or longing that is already there, this desire to know ourselves. So we don't have to do anything with the mind. And just allow the mind to be a tool, just observing its own phenomena. Who are you that is aware of the mind? Who or what is aware of the mind and senses? The field of changing phenomena. Who is aware in this moment? Who are you in this moment? Find out who you are. Don't move the mind. Find out. Just see or know directly who is aware or what is aware. Unmoving, ever present. Closer than the you that you think you are. Notice if any preferences are arising in the self structure. Just allow everything to be as it is. Don't try to get rid of preferences, because that's just another preference. Notice if the mind is labeling anything as good or bad. Who is aware of that mind? Who or what is aware? Directly experience that which you are. Let the conditioned self burn in the now. letting go even of perception of this and that, perception of things. When we no longer look for anything in the field of phenomena or things, then the energy becomes free. Let the energy circulate freely. Notice even the subtlest, smallest movements of mind. Even the subtle movements of the eyes, subtle movements of body maintaining balance, the movement of the breath, the beating of the heart. pulsation of the heart through the entire body. Who are you beyond the stillness and movement of the mind? Who is aware? For the last few minutes of the meditation, I invite you, your eyes are closed, to just open them maybe halfway, or if you want, fully. Just allow the senses to be open. taking in the space that you're in. Perception of space through the mind and senses. Notice consciousness in the other avatars, characters on the screen. Notice consciousness, conscious of itself in form. When we recognize our true nature as consciousness reflected in all beings, this direct knowing of being one with, or not separate from. And this is felt within the self-structure as love. This being or recognition of that which we are in all beings. So at this point, we have an opportunity for a Q&A. There's no end bell. The meditation, the self-inquiry is not something separate from life. So we can continue, stay in presence and we have an opportunity to share. I'd love to hear how it went for you, or if there's anything coming up in your practice or in your life. This is an opportunity just to connect and share. So for those who haven't been here before, there is a raise hand feature in Zoom, or you can just unmute yourself as well if you'd like to connect. Hi, Adam.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm Adam. I just wanted to introduce myself and say how much I appreciated today, the meditation, the inquiry. Uh, I just really appreciate it. And well, I just wanted to say thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. How did it go for you?
It went well. I do have a practice, but it's more I don't know, it's more doing. So I'm trying to get more of a being practice, or not a practice, and it's a process, but I definitely feel much lighter right now than I did earlier today.
Good. What's your usual practice?
Meditation, but it's usually on like objects, or or I do mantras, or I also do during the day, kind of like a loving kindness, kind of when I'm having issues, or things are going on. I try to do like the bodhisattva kind of way. I kind of give it like I try to pray at that, or at that moment. Like, say if I'm frustrated, then I try to say, in my head, I hope I hope that all sentient beings, can get through all the things that come along with anger or frustration, But then I also, if I see something, that saddens me or in life, or anything that makes you happy, I try to just use that aspect too. I kind of, I'm trying to get it so that it doesn't feel like I'm always like doing all the time, because we definitely can get, it's a lot easier when you're just being and you don't have a lot of, I don't know the words.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
It makes it a lot easier, and there's a lot more comfort and a lot more connected. It's not, when I'm so much about trying to like calm myself down, or focus on the, or do that, I get less connected.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of practices like that I did for years myself as well. I think, at the beginning, I found like a lot of these things would calm the mind, starting to open the heart and breaking up the habit patterns, within the conditioned Dan character,
Yeah.
But yeah, these techniques are like they're a double-edged sword, because they become there's something that's conditioned, and if we just continue to do some technique, the original benefit of sort of breaking that habit pattern of the mind can get sort of lost, and the self structure can just grab onto these things, and before we know it, we're just it becomes a pattern again, or some new mode of operation for the self structure. So so it really is a double-edged sword. I see the the techniques as like a stepping stone to less and less doing, and then if we can just be present with the truth of who we are, we don't have to practice compassion, or we don't have to practice these bodhisattva kind of things. It's just natural. It's just an actual recognition of the truth of what we are. So there's no there's no heaviness to it, or it's like I had a teacher who told me that one time in my path that my mind had become dharma ridden. It's like my mind had learned all this dharma stuff, and then was just doing it. And so I think it's part of the path is to use these techniques and break up the pattern, but definitely at some point we let go, and then there's like a deeper recognition of what they were pointing us to. So
yeah, I think that's why I like this platform right here, because I get more, even just more out of self-inquiry. Like who am I? Like the what is it? Ramana Maharshi. Like I got more out of that, out of his self-inquiry reading than I have out of anything. Like it helps me a lot more, to realize, yeah, it's like you're saying, to not condition myself into more. Things.
Awesome.
So,
yeah,
thank you.
Ramana, his pointers are the best.
Yeah.
You can't beat them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's good to meet you, Adam. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did I just exit myself? All right. Trying to get the handshake thing off.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure how you. Oh, lower. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go to Aaron. Hi, Aaron. Yeah. Oh, we gotta unmute there. You're muted there. Yeah, there we
go. Sorry. Yeah, no. Yeah. What's your name? I missed the meditation today. It's did it start early?
It started at 7 Eastern Standard Time. So.
But 5:30 it used to start. I don't know if it started early. I think the daylight time difference is there, extra added today. I don't know. I missed it.
Yeah, I think we did that switch like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just came. Okay.
Yeah, fine. There is a timer on the Awaken the World site. There's like a countdown timer that Alex put on there because people are in different time zones. So it'll actually tell you exactly if you go to the meditation page.
Okay.
It'll count it
down.
Yeah,
I see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and right now I am doing like on sensation, more of just trying to be present all the time. And some one mind activity came up, like isn't it better like to be in presence all the time? Like wouldn't it be boring? Like mind activity like all the time. If it becomes boring, what should I do? That also I recognized. I came here to ask this question only, but I think I know the answer. I don't know, but I would like to hear from you.
Can you? You said you think you know the answer. What's the answer to you?
I mean, nothing. Just okay. Let it be boring. Like let it be boring. Okay, just like saying okay, fine. And actually, that also like second thing comes. Like maybe it might be boring or not. I don't know. I try to enter that don't know state, but it's hard for me to get that don't know state. Like whether I will be bored or whether it will be absolutely blissful all the time. That I won't be bored of that blissfulness. But I don't know whether this is the answer.
Yeah, like the presence, that that we're looking for, that the mind looks for, is always already present. So yeah, your answer is it, right? Like, we can't, if we have a preference about anything that is arising in the mind, that's just another mind preference. It's just more activity of the mind. So the meditation is to just recognize the presence that is already here. Who's watching the mind, who's aware of the mind. That presence is already aware. And then, so whatever is arising, if there's dissatisfaction or any phenomena in the mind, if we have a complete experience of it without resisting it, so if something's coming up in the mind, also feel it in the body at the same time, the sensations, whatever preferences are there, if we feel it and experience it fully, then it can arise and pass away. It's only when the mind is in this battle with itself, it's like it's trying to control itself, or it's judging itself in some way, then we keep that habit pattern of the mind going. So it's just this subtle recognition of presence, that's always already here, and that allows everything to unfold. And sometimes there's bliss, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but we just allow everything to be as it is, and then the energy becomes more and more free, and there's like a higher level of, you could say, bliss or energy that comes when we have no preferences. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. And is it okay to do this sensation? Yeah, I think we can do all the time, right? Like after eating. You said that in one of your videos, creating conditions of no escape. Then you said we should just eat soup, have soup for a while, like 2 days, 3 days. And is it okay to eat heavy and then also after that I can do meditation?
Yeah, it's like at a retreat, if you're creating conditions of no escape for the ego, sometimes breaking, like eating food is one of the biggest habit patterns of the mind, our cravings. So like at our retreats, we have very simple food, because people, they have their preferences, and we can actually free a lot of energy from those habit patterns just by not being in the usual pattern. But for day-to-day life, who you are ultimately doesn't matter. Your true nature, doesn't, it's here regardless of what we put in the body. But there can be a benefit to lightening up or breaking those habit patterns, for sure.
Okay.
In our sadhana, if we're doing like a practice creating those conditions of no escape, then yeah, it can be helpful to break any big pattern, any preference within the self structure, can be helpful to interrupt those habit patterns. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And can we if you know it's a playfulness, we have to, has to be relevant to life. You said that Krishnamurti also said that I create few egos about I like this, and for example, I like ice cream, so I can eat a lot, then I can disentangle from that ego, then also come back again to that ego. Will that be too much suffering?
I think the question is, who wants to know, who wants to know the answer to that, like in the, the mind wants to know, how should I be operating? How what's the best way to, create freedom.
Good.
But
Okay.
the mind that's asking that is its own, it's the illusion of the
Okay,
prison, right? So
Okay.
so the
Yeah.
so the mind that wants to control or create these conditions is what we have to keep an eye on, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's prison. Okay. And how should I know if my Kundalini is awakened or not? Like sometimes I feel pressure inside, but I don't know how to handle it. Or what should I do if I, like you also say in meditation, like your guided meditation, that sometimes Kundalini might awaken. But I don't know if people say that, like if your Kundalini is awakened, you should be like at a retreat center or something like that to
Mhm.
properly manage. And what if my is awakened? I feel something. I don't know.
Yeah, if Kundalini like fully awakens, like in a big way, like you'll know, you won't be sleeping. You'll be, the energy will be so strong. So and that usually happens as sometimes as a byproduct of doing a lot of meditation and self-inquiry. Yeah, it's usually best, if it's at a retreat, when that energy awakens, it's sometimes easier to manage if you, like whenever that energy unfolds, it's good to have the consciousness or the counterbalance to not react to it, not try to control it in any way, but just to surrender, because that energy will rewire us. It has an agenda to open the chakras, to move from the root to the crown. So really, whenever that energy awakens, we just want to keep the ego out of it, keep the controlling mind out of it, just surrender, allow it to do its thing. If there's a full Kundalini awakening, you'll know it. You wouldn't ask the
Okay.
question, but there can be energy that can become, sometimes if the ego is can sometimes be something new or unfamiliar. So so the best thing is to just allow that energy to rewire the body.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Jazzy. Hi there.
Hey, Dan. Hope you're doing well, and appreciate everybody for being here as well. And yeah, I feel that what I want to share and ask you today is actually, I feel like it's building up the two previous person that what they're talking about is that attachment and controlling the outcome, or when it comes to like having a preference, right? Because I realize myself that when it comes to relationship or in business, there's always a preference. And like you just mentioned, right, to feel it and experience it fully and have this subtle recognition. But I'm wondering if you could like go a little bit more, just share a little bit more when it comes to attachment or, a controlling outcome. So yeah.
Sure. Is there a particular context like that like in a particular aspect of life, or something that's coming up for you specifically? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So like I've been doing this like thing called like digital nomad for maybe a year or a little over a year. So which is I traveling between conferences to do interviews and host like meetups, and which is something I guess I always wanted years ago, right? But then I think I'm till this point now that, okay, cool, I travel and go to a different city. It seems pretty cool, have a good time and meeting people, right? But afterwards, let's say after the events or after, I do my things, I come home or come to the Airbnb, just like it's like my mind is just not quite settled. Just like it's almost like my mind or my ego is being high when I'm like out there interacting with people, like enjoying and being in the flow. And then afterwards, it's almost like can't necessarily be by myself. Just I don't enjoy that feeling of being by myself, right? And I count myself always, let's say get distracted, thinking about doing this or doing that, doing this, doing that. So just, like this restlessly feeling. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So that restlessness when it comes up, there's kind of a discomfort. So I guess it's propelling you to, distract yourself in different ways, do different things to not feel that restlessness completely, right? So
Exactly.
So for me, the way is always through. The way is always not to go around it or try and get rid of it, but actually go deeper into it. Really explore what is that restlessness. How does it feel in the body? Where does it live? Does it have a location in the body? Is it the whole body that's restless, or maybe is it the heart? Is it, sometimes there can be movement in the mind area, in the brain. You can even feel, the energy moving. So, really feel where that restlessness lives in the body. Have you tried that?
Actually, not quite. Like, for example, when I'm meditating, I just try to like concentrate on my breath or like not think about something. And so when you're saying feeling that restlessness, that feeling is like, you recommend me just like sit like if I were meditating, or just maybe like on the couch is fine too, or
yeah, just wherever you are, just explore it, and really don't turn away from it. Just notice that habit pattern of the mind to distract, to find something else, and then and just go into it, feel where it lives, because these things only have power when there's an aspect that's unconscious. There's some, we when we have these discomforts in the body or blockages coming up, it's an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity to really go into whatever that phenomena is, and it is the teacher. It's actually that discomfort will take you deeper into the self structure, and then as you find where that lives in the body, you'll bring consciousness to it, and it'll actually be the very thing for your investigation. The thing that you're resisting, or that seems like the hindrance, is always the way in, actually.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think one thing on top of my mind is definitely like shoulder, I guess, maybe because I'm sitting and in front of computer a lot, right? I realize my like shoulder is always like pretty tight, or like tends to be like this kind of so yeah, that's one thing definitely I realize. But
and maybe there may be subtle aspects as well of that feeling of resistance. There might be a change in the breath as well, when that feeling comes up. So there might be, the gross physical kind of observable, easy to observe things, but there might be subtle changes or aspects as well. Just usually when there's some sensation felt like that, there's usually a change in the breath as well, and usually something going on in the mind as well. A habit pattern of the mind.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Like, this is something I'm going to focus on and working on, and go deep into the hindrances, like you said. Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to be there in June.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I saw you're on the list. That's amazing. Yeah, awesome. Look forward to seeing you.
Me too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, John. Hi there.
Hi all. How is everybody? I want to thank you for what you do. I'm a good transition from the last speaker because I am right now, I'm just antsy as could be. And you may have noticed my name popping in and out and my picture going away because I would sit here sometimes and I need to get up and walk and have that antsy feeling. I found my place. I never asked myself where it is at when I get antsy like this or restless legs, but it's the back of my knees. And like I'm right now massaging the back of my knees, and which feels just wonderful. But I never noticed that I could find where it was at until you mentioned that. And I have had that happen all week because I've been spending, one of the reasons I wanted to talk was I've been spending so much time on YouTube with your meditations and your videos over the last week. It's just been amazing. I am in awe of your capacity and your knowledge and ability to communicate the amount of information that is coming and flowing from ATW. It is just wonderful. And I think you may have noticed that I mentioned last time that I have Parkinson's, which is a gift, as I think I mentioned, because effectively my body is one thing, my mind is another. And they are very specific with Parkinson's because you lose your brain cells, so your connection to your body, to tell your hands to do something can be a chore. On my left is my sloth. I'm slow. I move like this. On my right, I'm a jaguar. I can move really fast. I can get where I need to be. But I've been watching your videos and I have to rewatch it for the fourth time. Clueless awareness or choiceless awareness. It has so much in it that I can't stop looking at it. I recommend it to anybody on this call. It is so, it actually is so focused. It is helping me because there's parts of it that actually I can put to work with my Parkinson's. It's the mind-body connection, and how that works or doesn't work, how you can control it or how you can let it go. And for me, that is wonderful to have that knowledge and ability to be aware of what may be going on within my human structure that's here right now. The gift is that my Parkinson's gets me closer to being in my true self, in my true nature, just because I have lost much of my mind, the stuff I don't need. I may shake, but that's just an outcome. It's a symptom. So I want to applaud you for your work, your dedication, and I can see with the organization the way it is. You are there for a purpose, and I'm there behind you, gathering every scrap I can get.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Yeah, and if you, one thing that is coming up for me, like if you were spending a lot of time doing inquiry this week, sometimes when we really engage in self-inquiry and start to, really recognize the true self, it can really bring up energy, like that restlessness that you're experiencing. To me, some of the times that I've really gone into deep practice, there has been a restless energy or kundalini, almost like a squirmy energy that can arise, and that's part of the integration of that that process, you know, that energy starts to come up, and then you know, we have an opportunity to integrate that energy. And you know, it's not comfortable. Sometimes it can be extremely difficult, but to me, the fact that that's happening is interesting. After you described the you know, doing all of this inquiry, to me it makes sense that that energy would start to be reconfiguring. And you know, and all we can do is surrender, or just allow it to the best of our ability. There's no, I haven't found any real trick other than just letting it be, letting it do its thing. And then eventually, the more conscious we are in that, it's like our consciousness and that energy move together, and whatever intelligence is there will just, you know, we just don't know what that unfolding will look like, but it can result in a rewiring, or sometimes a healing, different things. So, but
Well,
it's not up to us. Yeah.
I thank you. I thank you. I found what I would be doing was, if I got the antsy feeling, sometimes I would just get up in my family room where I was watching the video or listening to the meditation, and close my eyes and just walk around the room.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd have to look every once in a while, but I know my family room pretty well, so I can walk around without my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And I would do that. I would get up and the antsiness would go away, and I'd sit back down and go deeper. And I found when I was doing those meditations that I would go in and out of them, part of it because of restlessness, and then part of it because the nature of where I was at within the meditation. I was so deep that I had to come back to touch reality in this realm so that I could continue going down a different path with the meditation. So I was having 2 or 3 experiences in the meditation, which was wonderful. And it would be, and I found that what resonates with me the most is your statements about non-doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done a lot of different meditations over the years since I awoken. And there are a lot of doing, a lot of practice, a lot of mantras, and they serve me well. Yeah. But now I'm at a point where I don't need any of those.
Yeah.
I close my eyes and I'm in my space.
Mm-hmm.
I watch a video and listening to you, I'm in my space. I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
And I found that the doing is going away, and the being is Aaron Ron was talking. The being is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go into meditation, I more and more find the being happening, which means I'm in the middle of the space. I don't even know what I'm doing and where I'm at. I'm just in it deep.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, because I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for what I've uncovered with ATW.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Beautiful. I'll go to Ulrich.
And Ulrike or Uli, you can say Uli.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
My first time, and I'd like to say thank you for all your guidance. And I was on YouTube and watching all the Ramana films and Neem Karoli Baba, and I was so in awe, and I was praying, why couldn't I have a living teacher? And then your Samadhi films popped up, and yeah, since then, I don't know, I'm sitting every day and doing the meditation on YouTube with you together, and I'm so happy to have found you. So to make it short. And my question today is, and since 1.5 years, our kids left home, and I'm in a space in between. I don't know where to go. I have the feeling my life is finished. My purpose is done. So, and I don't feel like I have been a yoga teacher for over 20 years and doing art for over I don't like anything at the moment to do, just sitting and doing it. And I'm wondering where it will lead to. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. If I'm right or not, or it's 1.5 years already. And I have the feeling, well, I have to surrender more. I should love more. Giving up more, but how long? My mind asks. And sometimes I can be calm with it and say, oh, just surrender, and it will. But then other times, my mind, that's my question today. If you have some advice for me to practice, I mean, I do the meditation and inquiry. I like to come to your center one day this year. I hope I can manage it. And maybe you have something to tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Dan. And I'm so happy that I came up because I'm so nervous. I don't like to speak in front in my heavy German accent. So
oh, it's good. Your voice is good, and and welcome as well. When I hear what you're saying, like you feel you're at a point, like when you said I feel like my life is done, that's exciting. Because that conditioned mind, the conditioned self, in this process of awakening to our true nature, in a sense that conditioned self has to die. It has to let go. So it's like your life has sort of brought you to this point of investigation into who you truly are. It sounds like to me, you're letting go of the old character, the old version of you, and now you're engaged in this investigation of your true nature. And so the mind that it wants to know, like, what's going to be the outcome, what's going to happen to me, but that little me that's asking the question, that's still an aspect of wanting to control. It's like wanting to know where things are going. Like we, to really let go of the control in our practice and in our life. Like that familiar knowing, that part of us that knows where life is going, what's happening. It's the memories, it's the past, it's all the conditioned self. So I would say, like, just observing that, just being aware that is in play, that there's an expectation or a wanting of something, so just see, that pattern in the mind is in play, but who is watching the mind? Who's aware of that mind? If you're aware of it, you're not it. There's an awareness of that habit pattern of the mind. So if we can truly enter into a don't know mind, it's like, I love in the Christian mysticism, sometimes they say you have to get lost before you're found, and so the conditioned mind doesn't like to get lost. It doesn't like the feeling of getting lost, but it's truly part of this process, to allow that not knowing. And there is to me, a faith or a trust, to me, not in the sense of, I grew up in Christianity with the Christian idea of faith, but to me, true faith is, there's something drawing you to this meditation. There's something drawing you to come here today. There's like an inner guidance mechanism that's awake and alive. So just trusting that and just allowing the not knowing.
Thank you so much. And it's the same, like John said, sometimes it's a heavy heartbeat is coming up, and it's helpful what you said before, just to watch it. But sometimes it's so scary, like so nervous energy, and yeah, to trust it and to observe it. It's not so easy like it sounds. I've found. But
No, it gets real. Yeah, 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 yeah. It you know, it is like one of the things I always say is you know, the two aspects of, you know, control that the mind exerts is, you know, it always wants to be, the body always wants to be comfortable, the mind always wants to know what's happening, it always wants to have its hands on the steering wheel, you know. So this practice is moving beyond our comfort zone, you know, and moving into a real not knowing, you know. In meditation, you know, it is, anything can happen. Yeah, it's just those two aspects. If we just keep going, you know, allowing ourselves to move beyond the comfort and move out of that space of knowing.
thank you so much. It's so good to have you. I mean, at least I can ask you if there wasn't a living teacher for a long, long time for me now. So at least there is somebody I can ask if something scary is coming up. So I'm really appreciating it. And thank you, Dan. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Noah. Hi there.
Hello. Hi, Dan. Very nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. So like I feel a lot of gratitude. Like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like holy, or it's a really strong, very, very nice feeling in me to be in, like hear everyone share and your presence and your guidance. It touches me very deeply. I wanna
Beautiful. Say. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And this meditation, okay, I feel I come very far back, like into the process of reality, observing it, emanating. And then there is this thought, but it should be completely empty. I should not be connected with the person and the objects. And then I look like, but I know they will be there. I don't need to disconnect from them and be an emptiness. They can be there and I can be identified in both points. So I become aware of it, but it still snags me. Like I have the idea that I am snagged, even though I'm not really snagged. So I get snagged. It's like this inverted loop.
Yeah, it's a common thing in you know, in meditation practice. Sometimes you know, especially if we've had experiences of the mind dropping off and, you know, coming to stillness. It's like we can you know, anything can become an attachment, you know, even the idea of stillness can become an attachment. And yeah, and it, you know, it is, you know, like these dropping aways of mind, you know, they're a good sort of indication that we're progressing on the path, you know, coming to those still points. But that's still not, you know, that, you know, if the mind has a preference of one state over another, then, you know, the mind is still mediating, and there's still, you know, because there's always going to be this continuum, you know, the mind is always in waking, dreaming, or deep sleep. And, you know, there's you know, sometimes the mind drops off in deep sleep, you know, but there's an awareness or a presence that is ever present through all of those changing mind states. So the non-dual space, or the you know, the fully integrated space, is to just be okay with what is. Like when there's no preference of any of that changing continuum, then it's almost like there is no stillness or movement. It's all, you know, the movement and the stillness are just one thing. It's all happening within awareness. You know, the awareness is like the ground that all of that is arising in. So, you know, so stillness and movement is really just that's the game of the mind. You know, it's just part of duality. You know, it's always going to be on one part of the continuum or another, but really there is no stillness in movement. It's like in Zen, it's like that idea of emptiness dancing. You know, it is that is the world. You know, the world is that emptiness dancing, and it's one thing. It's like an energy, but it's empty. It's like a luminous emptiness. So, you know, in Buddhism, you know, the Buddha said form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. And you know, there's a direct experience of that where, you know, so yeah, so it's interesting as the further we go in the meditation, you know, the more subtle the mind tricks can get, you know, where, you know, having preferences of these subtle states. So yeah, it's good. So it's good that you're aware of it. You know, it's conscious. So, you know, the more conscious you are of the pattern that's in play, you know, the less, you know, eventually it will drop away. Sometimes there can be, you know, we can feel that preference or that you know, part of the mind. We can find out where it lives energetically as well, and then it can drop away.
Yeah. Thank you for elaborating. Yeah, energetically, it seems like when I speak to some friends, I'm like, yeah, this week has been the most intense for me ever energetically. But I found myself saying that so many times, and like when I look back, I think the last few years, every week has been more intense than the week before. And that's really true in my experience. Every week is more intense. And like a few months ago, my throat started really like, I feel the vibration, I feel the contraction. So that's been playing out for a few months now. It's super intense, and it's like my chest is also opening up, and my stomach, it's moving down into the root as well. But it's just, and the head has been active for a long time, but it's like, it's really powerful. Like every little molecule is pressing against each other and itself. It's not like pressure from outside, it's from inside, from all directions. And I really been like going for it for maybe 1-2 months now, like even more intense than before. And I went for a few days, I really went into with my awareness into the throat, but it came a bit too intense, the process. I'm saying I've been going for it. It's really the process has been going for it with me, and I've been like, yeah, going along and like pushing it as well from my side. But it became too intense and it became like too much suffering with that much intensity in the energy. So I like backed off, but yes, just a tiny bit, and like lying on the edge of like what I can tolerate. But my tolerance increases all the time also with how much energy that can be contained. But what has happened the last month, I had cold sores, herpes. Like the last month, I had constant outbreaks of herpes. Like I had it constantly. And I had 3 eye infections, like one after another. And I very much feel it's very connected to this, like very like going for it energetically in meditation and so on. And I feel the story I create, it's a good thing because it is things surfacing, it's healing. And when these knots are healing, these energetic knots, it also surfaces in the physical body in that way. But there's also the question in the back of my head, am I pushing it a bit too hard? Because I think it's really pushing itself. I can like consciously try to slow it down and suppress it, but I'm not doing that. So that's like the going for it. It's not suppressing the process, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I should add, last 1.5 months, it's also been calling for me to start like sharing a bit. So maybe 1.5, 2 months, I've been also like weekly having a small group of friends that I on Zoom, like do meditations. I guide them.
Wonderful. Amazing. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Yeah, the way you described it really well, to me, it's like the farther we go on the path, it's like we get a greater capacity to sort of, open or remain equanimous in increasingly difficult situations. And it's almost like the path will test us, in a way where, I hear that a lot from a lot of different people, just the phenomena of the matrix or the world, the way things are unfolding right now. A lot of people say, it seems to be getting more intense. So whatever that is, I think it's felt by a lot of people, right now. I think it's and it, to me, it's not separate from the path. I feel like we, sometimes we, when something can be overwhelming, there's only so much that our self-structure can handle, depending on our wiring, and that wiring gets stronger the farther we go. So, the deeper levels of mastery, like if you think of, like it's almost like an archetype that unfolds, like if you think of Jesus on the cross, or Job being tested by God, or those types of things seem to come.
Both of those that you mentioned have appeared to me. Both of those examples.
Yeah. So I had a lot of that phenomena, that kind of imagery or synchronicity happening in my path as well. The crucifixion felt like it was an
I was on the cross, like with the open heart, and like experienced that experience.
Yeah.
And not being snagged by being in that suffering was like to really be equanimous in that.
Yeah.
Position.
Amazing. So yeah, and that it seems to be common phenomena as we, if we put ourselves in these deeper and deeper sort of conditions where the ego is surrendering very deeply, then there's a big sort of rewiring within the self structure. And the paradox, of course, is that that we, like the awareness that we are, like the true primordial awareness, it has never been imprisoned. It doesn't actually need to go through this to be what it is, right? So this, all of this is for the self structure, this whole conditioning, and it's for the container, the purification of the vessel. But for awareness, it doesn't, it just is. It doesn't need any of that, So.
And I've been reading, thank you for saying that, because I've been thinking sometimes all this like suffering that I'm going through, because there is a lot of suffering as awareness penetrates into areas that has been in the subconscious before. And sometimes I'm thinking, I'm actually this is not at all necessary. It's because I still have a hang up, an attachment to this process, that I'm in the process, and I don't need to suffer. But I'm still, my identification as a limited self still believes in that. So it keeps on going until I break free out of that. And that's what it seems like. It's really unnecessary what I'm going through.
It is, and it is, and it isn't. That's the thing. It's such a paradox, because upon awakening, we realize, who was struggling the whole time. It's always the conditioned self that is struggling or going through this path of suffering or whatever it is. And so my teacher always said, there's always two ways. There's the path of suffering and the path of wisdom, and the wisdom is just recognizing your true nature directly, but because of the entanglement, the whirlpool of the mind is so strong that we can't, it's not always available, it's not always there. So we it's like we struggle until we recognize who has been struggling, or, you know, we, at a certain point, it's like the struggle can be dropped, and it's like, oh, like I was identified with that character that was struggling or doing something or being crucified or whatever it was, right? It was, you know, it's like, oh, I'm not that character, you know, of course, I'm the awareness. Outside of that, I've always been that awareness, but I became entangled with this character. So it's such a paradox. It's like we, you know, all these practices and everything, it's like we're stirring the pot for this alchemy to happen, you know, and it's like, you know, my teacher would always say, you can just drop the struggle, you know, but my mind would try to drop the struggle. And
doesn't really dare to drop it. Like it's scary to drop it.
Yeah,
Noah.
And even the idea of that, you know, there's something that I can do to drop it, you know, like who hears that? You know, it's the conditioned mind that thinks, okay, I can drop the struggle, but actually I am the struggle, you know, like my very existence, the little I is nothing but a struggle. It's just a series of patterns of you know, resistance to what is. So it's such a paradox, because it all at a certain point, it will, you know, just we wake up from that struggle.
But can I ask you then, because on one level, I understand and I see that thing that wants to get rid of something is emanating from the actual thing it wants to get rid of.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that, but obviously I don't see everything fully, because then I would not be snagged in it. So yeah. Can you give me some understanding here?
Yeah.
What do I need to open up to?
Yeah. So for me, the thing that is kind of most important is, you know, like when we truly drop the struggle, from what I've seen, you know, the examples of awakenings that I've witnessed and on my own path, it's like when we put ourselves in these conditions of no escape, where, you know, it's like we're in the struggle to the degree that it can't continue anymore, you know. So like, you know, what we do at the center, these self-inquiry intensives, we create these conditions where, you know, we're brought face to face with this pattern. And so just by being in continuous presence, you know, it's like there's a I would say like a transmutation or an alchemy that starts to happen, where, you know, the longer we can just be continuously present, it's like the energy starts to come out of this conditioned pattern, and it loses its power, it loses its momentum. And then that flip of, you know, the sense of I at a certain point will just flip from the conditioned I to the unlimited I. And to me, it just happens. It's just this process where the more we can be present, you know, it's almost like an energetic flip where, you know, like the ego doesn't make it happen, but we can sort of choose to put ourselves in these conditions that make it likely to happen. So for me, you know, it's like you know, these intensive forms of sadhana, you know, ultimately it's not necessary. That's the paradox is, you know, upon awakening, we realize this is, you know, who was doing anything in this process. It's all just, you know, it's using an illusory technique to wake up from an illusion, you know. So it's insane, but at the same time, if we don't do it, or somehow provide a permission slip, you know, for awakening to happen, then we'll just, this whirlpool of mind will continue. So it is this ultimate paradox. And, you know, but I find, you know, the people that awaken that I've encountered are the ones who step into, you know, the really intensive practices and for long periods of time, you know.
Dan, this is John. I want to say that Noah, I was really impressed because you made a statement, you became aware of the awareness, of your awareness, which I thought was profound. Because in your awareness of that awareness, you had a choice. And I found in my journey that the two words that came with me from the first time I awakened at any level was awareness and balance. And it's through the awareness that you have a choice. You can either stay in balance or you can go fully out of balance. And what I mean by that is you have a choice to sit in the issue you're aware of, or as Dan was saying, you can let it go, as his teacher told him. I think we're at a point in our history as a human with a lot of shifting right now. And we're moving from therapy to oneness very profoundly. This is not a joke anymore. This is not a long-term thing. This is coming now. We need as many awakened and aware people as possible. So the choice becomes awareness and the choice to either be in balance or out of balance. And I think Dan described all the different routes, but I think we're at a point where we're going to be making decisions very quickly. And we're going to do it from our heart. We're going to know it. We're not going to need to ask it. We're going to know it. And Noah, it was so profound what you said. It hit me square in my third eye. You're aware of your awareness. Now you have a choice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's, that's beautiful, beautiful. To me, the awareness of awareness is it, like when awareness is awake to itself, that's it, and then whatever unfolds within the self structure, it ultimately doesn't matter what's happening on the planet. All of this, it's when we know the ground of our being, what we are, then all of this will unfold. And it's not good or bad. It's the show. We're
right.
We're here for the show, right? But awareness, it's like I love the analogy. Rupert Spira uses this sometimes. Talking about how it's like we're like the character. We're playing King Lear. But we've forgotten that we're the character. We think we're that character. So when I know I'm playing the character, that awareness is playing all the characters, in this play, then it's a play, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm playing the character, I'm not the character, that's it. So it's the recognition of that awareness, the awareness of the awareness, really, that sets us free. It turns this from a serious endeavor to a play,
And Dan, I think there's one step left there, and that is it leaves you with choice. We have free will, we have choice.
Yeah, I agree very much.
And it's choice, and that choice is really going to be the interesting part about who's observing who.
Yeah.
The ego.
It's very interesting, who chooses, who
Exactly.
chooses. Yeah. And, is there a chooser, and that's, each of us has to find out, is there actually a chooser? Is there actually choice? Who chooses? Yeah.
I had something like, there's three things I want to say really. But one thing is because of course I get triggered all the time by all different things walking around as a person. And what I see when I get triggered, I see the program running. And what I see, like there's, as you say, a choice. I can be that program and fully be hijacked in that program as a person and think that he or she was really stupid doing that thing. Or I could like shoot myself out spiritually to just become awareness and just observe and be completely disentangled from it. And like then it doesn't touch me at all. But I find like balancing on the knife edge where I become awareness, observing what's happening in the person and being the person fully from the point of being awareness. So I'm both fully the person, experiencing being fully triggered and all that drama, but I experience it from the point of being just like pure awareness, or what do you want to call it. So then I get like the spiritual strength to 100% be in the trigger and experience it until the end, and that really jucky feeling that comes with everything. And doing that kind of maneuver for me seems to really be like the trick to be able to stay as the person in the jucky feeling all the way and let it dissolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, there's no contradiction, like for me, like the Dan character, has its, it chooses it. The Dan character it has its favorite tea that it likes to drink, or all these different things are in operation within the Dan structure. But I think the key is it's like Krishnamurti talked about choiceless awareness. The sense of I, is not, if my sense of I is in those preferences and in those choosings, then it creates this identification with the character. But if the sense of I is in choiceless awareness, if I recognize I am awareness, awareness has no preferences, it has no choosing, it's just aware. It has no quality whatsoever other than being aware. So the question, or the whole human conundrum is that the sense of I is just misplaced. That's all it is. The sense of I is on the character and its preferences, and then I suffer if it's there. If the sense of I is awareness, then the character is free to do it. The Dan character will do all its things. It knows automatically what to do. It's all just happening, but it has nothing to do with me. The preferences have nothing to do with me, so I don't suffer. So it's going to go through its life, its karma, whatever. It's going to have ups and downs, pain, pleasure, all of that, the human experience, but it has nothing to do with me. Yeah.
I had a period some while back where, like, it's just normally like the sense of I, or like the awareness for most persons, are like in the person, in the preferences. And then I had a period where the sense of I got completely without a home. There was no home for it. And that was really disorientating because there was nowhere for it to rest. Mm-hmm. Because it was really like weird, really weird, because mm-hmm. there was no home place.
Mm-hmm. And how did that express itself in like your direct experience? Like can you describe that direct experience?
It was like there was a searching going on for what am I, where do I rest, what I am, the sense of I, where do I rest it? Mm-hmm. but it was completely open in all directions and dimensions where it could rest as a home place. So the experience it was not resting in the person, because it was clear like it did not want to rest as the person, but there was no other point that presented itself to rest in. So there was still an activity of it wanting to come to rest somewhere, because it was, I say it, and it is the sense of I. There was a longing to rest somewhere, but there was nowhere to put down the foot and say, this is I. And I was aware of it as it was going on all the time. So that was maybe a week that was quite unsettling. It was constantly like
yeah, that's good. If that's to me that's a sign of progress in the meditation practice. Yeah, to me that's perfect. You know, that not knowing, if we can stay in, you know, when I talk about the cloud of unknowing, you know, like literally not knowing, you know, who or where that sense of I lives, you know, that's part of the disentangling and the, you know, the moving through that cloud of unknowing. That's the getting lost, you know, in order to be found. So to me, that's the sort of state we enter into for the awakening to happen, is that state of not knowing, of no location, no yeah, so that's perfect.
And I feel that later on, like the I get more and more comfortable to be in not having a home place, or not having to anchor anywhere, to not even actually to not know what I am, not even 1 millimeter penetrating into knowing what the I points towards, and be relaxed in that.
And even the word comfort, you know, like the, you know, awareness is neither comfortable nor uncomfortable. You know, it's simply aware. It has no quality, you know. So even comfort and discomfort, all of that is happening still within the conditioned mind, you know. So the conditioned mind can, you know, to me it's like you know, having gone through that process in meditation, that sort of letting go, you know, at the first time that happened, you know, for me, it was very uncomfortable. It was like the self structure was scrambling, you know, and terrified of that experience. But then having gone through it countless times now in practice, you know, it's like, you know, it's that the self structure gets acclimatized to it. So I guess you could say it is, you know, that intensity of the fear or whatever can come up in that, you know, gets less and less. It's like a wave that gets smaller and smaller over time. So I guess, you know, like you said, the self structure can get more comfortable with dying or letting go, or learning that it's not actually losing anything by going through this process. It's not obliteration or annihilation. So it gets used to this whole process.
And that it seems like structure can still like exist and still be there. Just the identification is not inside it. But the self structure is still allowed to remain exactly as it is.
Exactly.
But more like something to step into rather than be locked inside of.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't lose anything. It doesn't, you know, the self structure is always, you know, at the beginning afraid that it will cease to exist, or it becomes obliterated in some way. And so the more we go through this, the more it can start to actually just be open and trust the you know, the true self or the higher self. Yeah.
What I find is that like the more, like the deeper I see into the self structure, the more I see how much contraction, and this is how I feel, like the exact wording now, how contracted I am. how many different knots there is inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I become awake to how confused I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the feeling.
Yeah, and that's awesome, you know, and that's the truth. Like everyone's self-structure, everyone's ego is, you know, if it's really self-assured and, you know, it's in control, then you know, it's got its hands on the steering wheel, and you know, so we have to come to that space of not knowing, and yeah, just seeing the truth of it. It's beautiful. Yeah.
One last thing that I just wanted, because this is some really weird experience, like as there is this kind of letting go and like letting go of form, like it feels like letting go of all form, really, like all definition of form. But it seems like, and this is well, I'm just gonna say it feels like my sense of I can move into other person's form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually stepping into what it is, stepping into like the identification of someone else and living like their reality for some time.
Mm-hmm.
When I lay down and to sleep before I fall asleep, or when I wake up from sleep, half asleep, like I journey and it seems I can like, it's really, yeah. And
to me, that the truth of that is there are direct experiences where, you know, as we explore on the path, sometimes you can have a direct experience of other lives. You know, the truth is,
but this is also other people living that I know of.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, you know, it is the one awareness is already, you know, experiencing itself as all these different forms. So, you know, so I think like what happens sometimes, the illusion of separation is actually what falls away. You know, it's not that I'm experiencing myself as all these other beings, you know, as a Dan character, but it's actually the illusion that I'm the Dan character falls away, and then the truth is that I'm the one awareness, and you know, and that can be seen directly more, you know, when that mediating mind is dropped, and
so I'm
sometimes
having that experience, but I'm confused and thinking I'm the Noah character having it, so I'm a bit like not seeing clearly, I guess, in that clarity.
Yeah, and that's always what happens whenever we have any kind of awakening or a breakthrough. You know, the little self will claim it. You know, it'll say, "Oh, I did it. You know, I awakened, or I did this, or you know, I had this experience." But it's actually because it temporarily dropped away that came forth actually. Yeah.
And last, what do I do now that you and I have been talking, and myself want to like, I feel a bit proud about having come far on the way. Like when you and I have been talking now, I have this like, yeah, wow, I'm like awakening. And what do I do with this? Because like, this is gonna fuck me up for the rest of the day.
Yeah, just observe, you know, just that the mind loves to take ownership or to, you know, to get involved in any way. So, you know, so who are you that is aware of that mind, you know, that mind that is, you know, happy or you know, the mind could be, you know, when I would sometimes go to my one teacher I worked with, and, you know, half the time he would make me feel really good afterwards. I'd feel great, you know, I'd feel like, oh, I'm on my path. Other times I'd feel totally disillusioned, you know, and I'd feel like I'm so far, you know, and both of those things are just the mind. It's all just the mind, whether you feel you're on the path or not on the path, you know, that's all just the mind. So, you know, what it comes down to is who is aware of the mind.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything, Dan.
Yeah. Take care, Noah. Bye-bye. So yeah, I've got a few more people here. Okay, we're kind of going over time, but that's okay. So Alyssa, hi.
Hi, everybody. I will try to be quite quick. I was very, very observant of the time and I don't want to take so much. First of all, very quick apologies. I make a mistake with the time. So I miss your valuable meditation today, but very interesting to continue listening to you and everybody in this interesting sort of talk. And I just, when I was listening to you and all the speakers, participants, I was actually sort of thinking, when I get into this sort of thinking of who is aware of what, and my self structure and whatever, I think that I would like to share with you and to know your opinion on this. I just came to a conclusion that I think that everything, yeah, as you said, your final words, talking to the previous participant, is that is the important is to be that is the mind who is aware of all this, and I thought that I sort of came to a conclusion that I think that we are trying to place too much attention to these factors. And we are trying to understand the understandable in the light of really our very limited three-dimensional light that we have in this planet, in this plane. So I think that our capabilities regarding mind, regarding our intellect, regarding our conscience and blah, 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 I think is very limited by our own existence in this plane. So I stop wondering so much about all these sort of things, because as I said, I would try to understand with my very limited mind, and especially for my very limited mind and my little eye, yeah, in which we try to go all the time, to understand something that is beyond my comprehension, that is beyond what really I want to go. I think that since very, very young age, so I started this path and I sort of identify so much with the things that you talk, and through this path, I have started to realize, okay, this was useful. I don't need this one thing, and the one is anymore. And I started, and I love this self-inquiry. I really love your talks, and I love your meditations. But I have come to this conclusion. I think that I'm trying to understand something that is beyond my comprehension. And at the end of the day, I just am trying to improve or progress as much as I can within my humanity, my limitations of my humanity in this 3 dimension, to progress to a higher, to get higher levels of consciousness. So I don't know, I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that insight is, recognizing the limitations of the mind is exactly what I teach at the meditation center and in the the self-inquiry. If there's one thing that is the most important thing to learn or to accept, with the mind, is the limitation of the mind. I think that we get to a point in self-inquiry where we've exhausted everything. We've the same on the path. It's like we've read every sutra, we've looked at every teaching, and then at a certain point the mind realizes that information or anything that it can learn is not it. There's something deeper, there's something beyond that limited mind. So that recognition is key, and it's a turning point in the journey. So you're not looking to the content of the mind, you're not looking to thoughts or to learned material for the answer to the deepest truth of who you are. All of that is useful for the human experience. We can learn all kinds of stuff with the mind that can help us to navigate the human experience. But the one thing that it can't do is find out the truth of who we are. That is just not useful. The mind is not useful in that process. So so there's a way of, once we see that futility, then we stop looking to the mind for the answer. Then we can essentially recognize or come to stillness or have a direct experience of who we are beyond the mind. And that's really what this is about. That's what, so I would say that recognition is key, but also we keep going then, once we have that recognition, Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much for this big reassurance within my path. But when you said having this recognition, which is key, we need to continue. When we say we need to continue, what are you referring to?
Yeah, so now that it's not beneficial or useful to look to the mind for the answer, or to control with the mind. So the direct inquiry now, you're like when we inquire into who we are, inquire into the self, at the beginning of the path, it's like the mind looking for something. It's trying to find an answer to who we are. But now there's no answer on the level of mind. So is there a way to, keeping going is, is there a way to directly inquire into who you are without the mind, without getting caught in the screen of thoughts or sensations or any of that, but to look directly, and that, that's the inquiry, that direct experience is what we're going for. And when we do that, the mind will get, stirred up, it gets confused, it gets frustrated. All of that can happen within the mind. But if we keep going, keep observing, there's this sort of unfolding or purification process that happens to that. And so it's a key turning point, but the key is to just keep inquiring, even though the answer is not on the level of mind. So we know that, but keep going, go deeper, who are you beyond the mind and senses?
Yeah, I would like to share just very quickly. Yes, I have gone deeper and deeper in my inquiry. And I have come to something that perhaps is the mind again coming. The mind doesn't let us rest. And I don't know, I see that there is human consciousness and there is our real consciousness, our sort of spiritual, if I can call this, I can use this term, spiritual. I don't like to use these terms because we start to put things into boxes, but just for the sake of for the sake of explaining myself. So we got the human consciousness and the spiritual consciousness, but I am completely, totally convinced, if I can use again this word that I shouldn't, that there is a universal consciousness, of which we are part of that. We are this universal consciousness. I cannot talk these sort of things with anybody else that they are not in this path, because they will say, oh, what are you talking about? You are getting crazy. What you mean is, you think that you are God. You think that you are part of the divinity. But I do believe very, very strongly that inside of my heart, if I can call again put it this word, there is this full understanding that I am part of this universal consciousness, this divinity that towards our walking to the walking in a state. And when I see great prophet, like for instance Jesus, that I suppose that he had this much higher level of consciousness, yeah, when he came to the Spanish and whatever. So that's what is very much within my understanding of what I'm going. So I don't know if it's my mind again convincing me, oh yes, of course, yeah, there is this and there is that, and there is a universal consciousness, and yes, you are part of that, and so this is it. So sometimes I get confused with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I speak about it in a similar way. So I think, what we normally call consciousness is part of the human experience. There's a consciousness where it's a consciousness of something, so usually when we say conscious, I'm conscious of something, so the world of form, and the consciousness of form arise as a duality, and so that human consciousness, is always consciousness of, and it's not separate from the objects. They arise together. That is the human experience. There has to be some subject and object relationship for this human experience, to have the experience of duality, of a separate self and other. But there's something beyond that. There is, there's a pure awareness, or divine awareness, whatever you want to call it, which is not awareness of, there's no separation. There's no thing that divine awareness is aware of. It just is. And that's, when that's, the words are so tricky, because some people call that the true self, some people call it divine consciousness or awareness, or it doesn't matter what the word is. The word, the mind thinks it knows what it is when we hear a word, but it's pointing to something that's beyond the duality of the mind, and this split into subject object duality. Mm-hmm.
And if we have actually felt this, using these words, purity or divinity within ourselves, I wonder if, because I only am very aware of my mind. My mind always may tricks and take me in wrong ways. So if I have experienced this divinity of oneness, because I have done it, but it didn't remain continuously. It was for a while and it's gone. So how can I continue in my path to be able to reach again that? I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. So
because I am completely aware of that.
Yeah.
I am really aware.
That's an important question, because the one that's asking that, how do I hold it, or how do I keep it? So there's a memory there, within the conditioned mind. So this is why beginner's mind is the most important part of the path. It's like we have to, when we have an experience of oneness or a samadhi experience, we have to forget it, because the mind will always think, how do I keep it? How do I hold it? But but the mind that wants to hold it is the separation. It's like the reality is there's a as we explore on the path, we're going to experience these sort of peak states, but it's just an opening. It's like the clouds dissipate and the sun is revealed, and the sun is always there, and then the clouds come back, and it's like, how do I, it's like the clouds asking, how do I light up the sun? It's crazy. It's like the sun is always there. So we just the sooner we sort of accept whatever state is present, the more equanimity we have with the coming and going of those clouds, the more we realize, or you know, that equanimity is really the quality of awareness. It's just an allowing, or it's just an ever shining, you know, presence that is ever present. So we never actually lose it. It's that, it's the delusion of the mind is that, you know, the mind has to get involved and do something to make that awareness stay, you know, but the awareness is always there. So really all there is to do, which it actually goes back to the very first thing you said, is recognizing the fundamental delusion of the mind, you know, or the limitation of the mind. The mind doesn't need to be part of that process, you know. The mind, once it recognizes its limitation, it can you know, then it's possible to recognize that awareness is just always there. Whenever you look for it, you know, awareness is always there.
Perhaps just to conclude, perhaps it's because sometimes my mind is so powerful that sometimes I tend to confuse my own realization with it is my own realization, or it is really my mind intervening in the process, despite of the fact that I'm so aware of the delusion of the mind. But okay, it has been incredibly useful. Thank you so much, Dan, for so much what you do for us. And thank you so much for helping me so much to clarify this thing that it was really going in my mind for quite a while. And I had an opportunity to sort of express it today. Thank you so much. Thank you for this absolutely valuable time that you give us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for connecting. Okay. Bye-bye.
And really, I hope that in September I can come to see you, because I live in Europe, I live in London. So for me, it's not easy. If I live in America, I will come as often as I could. But for me, I have to go organize the work and organize lots of things in order. So I've been trying, but when I try, the curves are gone. So anyway, so I hope that soon I will be able to come, because I would love to be there. And not just because I understand that you do only the time that you do is about 10 days a week.
Yeah, we do like smaller retreats as well. We do weekend intensives as well. But yeah, you're welcome.
But if I want to stay a little bit longer, because for me to cross the Atlantic just to go for 8 days is too little. So I suppose that I can stay longer if I can.
Wonderful. Yeah. No, you just let us know what you want to do, and we can make it. Yeah. Wonderful.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much, because I mean, you know, for a couple of years I've been trying and trying, but I know that I'm going to do it, and I will love to be there. Thank you so much, Dan.
Wonderful. Okay. Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi. Oh, you're muted there. Can you unmute? Yeah.
I'm Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer. Yeah.
Do you want me to mute and see if Sandra wants to come back on?
That's okay. Either one. Yeah. Oh.
Well, just really quickly, I just wanted to share an experience I had, I think probably a month ago, but I don't know, lately time has been moving really, really fast. I do not keep track of time. It's very strange. But about a month ago, it was like a silent meditation, and you were actually on it, Dan. And like I was fasting for 24 hours before that. And I had like an interesting experience. Like I kept my eyes open, and I usually don't, but like I kept seeing like flashes of different people like meditating in their own space, but they like weren't people on the Zoom. And then I didn't really get the feeling that they were like real at all. And it was just such a vivid vivid experience. And like, I was kind of wondering about that, but I think you kind of just answered that, because I think like no matter what it was, it probably was my mind just putting this together, that like my ego identity isn't like any more real than that, than just like this image of people, and like our consciousness is just kind of like the shadow cast on like the cave wall. But thank you for this, and thanks.
Yeah, it's all, you know, when the self structure starts to let go and dissolve, there's so many different types of phenomena that can unfold. And you know, we can, you know, use different words to describe it. Sometimes I say, you know, it's like we're connecting into the universal mind or higher levels of mind, or we can have transpersonal experiences, so experiences outside of the limited body. All kinds of phenomena unfold, and you know, sometimes I feel like there's usually an intelligence to it. You know, it's like we get shown what we need at whatever stage we are on our path. You know, it's like we'll get glimpses of things that show us we're not just this body, we're not just limited to this form, and these types of things. So you know, but it's usually, you know, sometimes it's unique for you, sometimes it can be archetypal in its nature. You know, these similar sort of teachings or realizations can come through for different people. So, yeah, thank you. And I'll go back to Sandra. Did you want to say something still, or you still got your hand up there?
Oh, I wasn't able to unmute myself. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You know, I'm so grateful that, you know, so much of what I've heard, you know, and even Jennifer just now, really, I've been able to, like, you know, really feel more comfortable with the experiences that I've had. And so thank you, everyone that has provided some insight on your own experience. So I wanted to share my experience and briefly, and some of my goals for the next month or so. I really have been focusing, well, the character that Sandra has been intentional about being mindful of gratitude, and my true self is really burning with passion for the divine. And so much of my inquiries, my self-inquiry, has been to just be able to let go of my character, of my expectations. And in doing that, there's been the opportunity to have experiences much like what Jennifer just shared.
Beautiful, beautiful.
There's
Thank you.
A doubt that comes into my practice that separates, that really separates me from being able to stay in the meditation. And it's disturbing to me because it comes at a point where I feel very connected, very sure of who I am, my true self.
So when those doubts come up, does it feel like a break or like an interrupt in whatever's unfolding? Is that kind of what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah. So when the doubt is coming up, sometimes it can be helpful. You know, usually there's like something energetically going on in the body, and you know, when a thought will come up in the mind as well. Sometimes, you know, if you can make that pattern of doubt fully conscious, and, you know, just allow, you know, have a complete experience of that doubt, you know, like fully see where it lives in the body energetically. What does it fully feel like? Then you can sometimes see, you know, the truth of it, you know, the truth of you know, what belief might be stored, you know, in the mind and the memory, and where it lives in the body, and then set it free, you know, allow it, by allowing it to come up fully and be felt fully. We can sometimes allow that to be integrated then.
It's a very scary moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very scary moment.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you, so are you when this doubt comes up, is this in meditation practice then?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I've been doing a lot more. My true self has been much more engaged in just really not setting time frames for meditation. So I frequently find myself, you know, setting a time frame to be able to do some healing from suffering, and the best way that that my true self is able to pursue that is through worship. Through worship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just wordless worship, and a lot of primordial sound. And I work with a lot of people that endure a lot of suffering, individuals that have severe addictions to opiates, and populations that African-American populations that are intent on reparations from generational trauma. I go to a retreat in Mississippi, in Magnolia, Mississippi, where some of these healing groups take place. And, you know, sometimes I don't like to be too pretentious about, I enjoy sharing my experience and assisting others to let go of the material self and be able to engage in primordial sound meditation. And so not much structure, I encourage not much expectations. However, when I'm still experiencing this point of doubt that separates me from, and then at that point, I don't feel like I'm being genuine. I feel like just need to stay silent and just allow, you know, the process to happen.
Yeah.
And so on a personal level, you know, sometimes I wonder, you know, should I really be engaging in the healing meditation of groups when the opportunity arises and I'm not able to hold on to the meditation when the doubt arises? It really breaks me down. I'm not able to transcend.
Yeah, that gives me a really good idea or good sense of what's happening. I used to do, or I still sometimes work with sound actually in my meditation, but you know, it's actually really interesting. You know, when we are working with primordial sound, it's like an energy sort of takes over, you know, allowing, you know, ourselves to be moved. And it is an interesting question, you know, in those moments where it seems like, you know, the sound is coming through, or we're being moved in a certain way. But, you know, to me, the doubt is something interesting, because, you know, when that's happening, the question arises sometimes, who is doing this? You know, who's engaging in this process? Who's releasing the sound? You know, is it just happening? am I surrendering and it's just happening, or am I doing it? Is the mind, is the conditioned mind involved in some way? And to me, that doubt is, that question, it's somehow wrapped up in that question, who is actually making this happen? And to ask that question is really important, because it takes us deeper. If there's any little self that is involved, controlling or manipulating it in any way, then by asking that question, who's doing this practice, then we can let go of that and come to a deeper level, a deeper letting go, that primordial, whatever it is that is moving everything can start to come through more fully when we recognize those parts that are in control. So I think it's like all of the hindrances that we work with, when doubt is coming up, I think it's a really interesting thing to explore, because maybe there is something there, exploring the doubt itself, to take you deeper into that question, who is doing this practice, Mm-hmm.
And it's really a hurdle. Some of the reasons why I've signed up for the June IAM.
Mm-hmm.
I feel at times that I'm alone in my practice, and maybe my energy is low. And, this question of that moment of doubt just comes at just such a crucial moment where it feels like I'm really, where my true self is really at a still point, and there's this one move forward, and not being able to identify where the doubt is coming from. It's been disturbing.
It's interesting in those awakening moments, I hear this quite frequently in self-inquiry intensives. Doubt is something that often comes up within the self-structure in those moments where we start to really awaken, because the conditioned mind actually it has to doubt, it realizes, oh, actually, I'm not it, it actually, the doubt is actually real, the doubt is a true reflection of the way things are, because, what is it that we're doubting? The little mind is doubting it's authentic, like it's doubting its own authenticity, which is necessary. It actually has to realize, the little self has to sort of doubt or realize, oh, I'm not really it. I'm, the I that I've, been playing or identified with actually has to let go. And so, so the doubt, that's arising in the self structure is part of the dismantling, or the dropping away of identification with that false self. So it's not really a problem if you see it that way. It's like the true self, it obviously doesn't doubt. It's just aware. So who's aware of that mind going through this doubting process?
Where do I go from there? I definitely release the intention of creating an environment or an intention to get past the doubt.
Yeah, I would say like the practice is to just let everything be as it is, just allow the doubt to be there, allow the conditioned self to experience that doubt. It's only another preference of the mind, to want to push away that doubt or get past it, or resolve it. So, I would say just have a complete experience of it, within the self structure, but also inquire, like, who are you that's watching all of this happening? You know, who's aware of that self structure doubting? You know, there's an awareness that is already free of all of that, you know. So just let the, you know, let the doubt be there, let the self structure have a complete experience of that, because the more we try and get by it and push it away, the more it'll just continue to operate in the shadows, you know. So actually by experiencing it fully, allowing it fully, we actually allow it. It's like a flower that, you know, it blooms and then it will die. But if we don't let it bloom, it'll never die. It'll just keep germinating, you know. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Yeah, it was awesome to connect, and look forward to seeing everyone in a month's time, and also on the morning sits if you're there. I've been deep into my morning sadhana has been working on a film which is almost completed, so I'll be back on the morning sits more in the future. So yeah, that's good to see everyone. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.